In today's episode, Tammy asks, as a follow-on to the previous question, in theories of persuasion from social psychology, the effectiveness of a message to persuade someone is significantly harmed when a receiver of the message becomes aware of any ulterior motivations, such as getting compensation, that the source of the message may have for making that argument, or they believe that someone is trying to persuade them. This has always concerned me when it comes to formal agreements being set with influencers. While your goal is to be transparent the second you disclose that you're in a relationship with a company, I question whether your recommendations come from truly loving and believing the product or because you're receiving some sort of compensation, therefore the whole thing backfires. Any thoughts on combating this? I am not a psychologist. Probably the work that comes to mind most is Robert Cialdini's many books on influence and sort of his 6 core factors of influence: reciprocity, consistency, social proof, authority, liking, scarcity. And very quickly, reciprocity is someone does something for you, you feel a social debt to do something for them. Consistency is people wanting to do things that are consistent with their past behaviors. Social proof is bandwagon effect. Everyone else is doing it, I should be too. Authority, which is trusting people who are authority figures, buying from people who we like, is liking, and scarcity, a limitation, on sale now, limited time or limited numbers. Those are the sort of the 6 ways that businesses and people in general can influence other people. Now, of those 6, 3 of them relate to influencers. Social proof is one. The other people are doing it, particularly if you see an influencer talk about something and then a whole bunch of other people share it, comment on it, retweet it, etc. It's a way to show social proof that, hey, this is an important thing. So somebody talking about a server, an encryption method in B2B, a perfume, a fragrance, a coffee in B2C. There's a social proof element to that. The second factor that makes a lot of sense is authority. So influencers by default are somewhat authoritative figures in the sense that we look up to them. We look up to them, we pay attention to what they have to say. Right now, it's a political season in the United States, and a very famous entertainer, Taylor Swift, has been highlighting people to go and vote, and a number of places have reported unusual upticks since her announcement in voter registration and voter participation. So that authority is very real, and obviously companies have used this one for a really long time. The guy is like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. Well, of course, we pay attention to that. And the third is liking, and liking is where other influencers really do well, which is we buy from people we like. We trust people we like. And so if an influencer is likable, if an influencer focuses on those human aspects, of course we're going to buy for them. So from that question, if an influencer is using any of these principles that Cialdini outlines in his books, of course they still have that element of, hey, you're being paid to say this, but it can be overridden. The other thing I think I'd add to this list, which is sort of in here, sort of not, which is demonstrated expertise, not necessarily authority, but subject matter knowledge. If an influencer, especially if it's something you don't necessarily know real well, but if an influencer demonstrates credibility, they demonstrate the ability to know what they're talking about, that can also help overcome that bias. Because yes, a real simple example is sponsored product placement. If you go onto a site like All Recipes, and you pull up a recipe for something, and there are certain sponsored recipes, sponsored by Campbell's Soup, and there's this recipe that inevitably has a Campbell's Soup product in it. You may or may not go out and buy Campbell's Soup to make that recipe, but at the very least, you still trust that recipe because it makes sense. Like, okay, put cream of mushroom soup in your string bean casserole, and it'll taste better than just using regular milk. And so there's a level of expertise there that I think adds to the credibility of an influencer, especially around more complex subject matters like B2B influence. That said, the authority, the liking, and the social proof are incredibly powerful. When you look at a really good example, when one of the Kardashians got in trouble, fell afoul of the FTC for hawking a nutraceutical product. Do you honestly believe that someone like that has the deep subject matter expertise into the nutraceutical? Probably not. Not saying for sure, because people can surprise you. Famous actor Dolph Lundgren has a master's degree in chemical engineering from MIT. Really smart guy. But on the whole, an influencer does not necessarily need subject matter expertise if they have that authority and that social proof working for them. Now, if you are an influencer, if you can get all 6 working for you, you'll obviously be that much more influential. And so some of the other principles like reciprocity, consistency, and scarcity may equally be at work, especially if there's something like a giveaway. Hey, I've got 1,000 of these things to give away. There's automatically scarcity, and there's automatically reciprocity, which is one of the reasons why influencers do giveaways, and why people tend to fall in camps. So, for example, I do a lot of work with IBM. And so if I'm talking to people for whom IBM is already in the consideration set, maybe they haven't bought yet, but they are advocates of or believers in the way IBM does things, then that consistency principle will be at play. One of the things we see right now in the very, very polarized political environment of the U.S. is that consistency principle being taken to extreme, where just because you believe in the blue team or the red team, and you stick with that consistency, that commitment to a perspective or a team color or whatever, as the message drifts into more and more absurd extremes, you still stick with that because of that consistency, of that commitment. So if an influencer is able to have a consistent message, or even go so far as to create their own tribe, Taylor Swift, for example, you can extend your message you can extend your influence by working with companies and products that are consistent with your audience, or consistent with your past behavior, or consistent with what you and your tribe stand for. So the payment thing is impactful, I think, if none of these factors of influence are in play. Once one or more of these much stronger factors are in play, I think the payment thing kind of goes out the window. Or at least its impact is significantly diminished, and the more boxes you tick off of Cialdini's list, the less and less the payment matters. So something to think about, and we'd love to hear your opinions, because Tammy, who commented on this post, is actually a doctor of psychology, so I'd like to hear from someone who actually is an authority figure on the topic. But thanks for asking. As always, please leave comments in the comments box below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.